Thank you, Sharon.
All right. Well, we do have 7 now with John joining. So Hillary, if you would, or Raphael, if you would like to start by reading the chair's statement regarding the virtual meeting, and then we can formally call the meeting to order.
Raphael's here, yeah?
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. Pursuant to recently adopted amendments to the Illinois Open Meetings Act, including in Public Act 101-0640, public bodies may, in certain circumstances, hold entirely virtual public meetings without a quorum physically present in any one location. Governor Pritzker's Executive Order 2022-01 has extended this provision through February 6, 2022. As a co-chair of the Council for Inclusion and Community, I have made the determination that it is not practical nor prudent to meet in person at this time. Accordingly, this meeting of the Council for Inclusion and Community is being conducted virtually with members participating through the Zoom webinar platform. Assistant Village Manager Sharon Tanner is in the Village Hall Conference Room as required by the Open Meetings Act. So I would like to, at this time, call to order and roll call, please.
It's better when I'm unmuted, then I can call the roll. Okay, Co-Chair Scott,
Here.
Co-Chair Guzman,
Here.
Member Bjork,
Here.
Member Evans, Member Flanagan, Member Reverend Patrice Kirk.
Here.
Okay, Member Molly.
Here.
Okay, Member Moses, Member Mizell, Member Robbins.
Here.
Member Rubin, and Member Young. All right, we have a quorum. The first item on the agenda is consideration of the December 8th meeting minutes.
You walked on my line, Sharon. Yes, we have the approval of the December 8th and February 2nd meeting minutes. But before I make a motion to approve, I wanted to, there's a Scribner's error. So I wanted to make a note of that. In the December 8th meeting, it looks as though the member list is the updated member list. So the chairs are listed as myself and Raphael, and the members are listed as the folks who are currently members, but were not members on December 8th. So that's my only note. Anyone, otherwise, I guess I can still make a motion to approve, and then if there's any discussion or.
We can, yeah, your motion to approve can be with that correction noted.
Perfect, thank you. Can I have a second?
Second, sorry.
Thank you, Raphael.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No?
Aye.
Okay, Amy, were you an aye?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. All right.
Up next on our agenda is a public comment section. This is an opportunity for any of the members or anyone attending in the public to be able to make a public statement or public comment in regards to either past events or past meetings or anything for today's meeting. So at this time, please speak up or say something in regards to any type of public comments that is not listed on the agenda. Anyone? No? Okay,
No,
then we'll
that's
just move
No,
on.
there are no public comments and none were submitted by email.
Thank you, Sharon. So next on our agenda is the February 8th Town Hall feedback. But before we roll into that, I want to be sure that we give Catrice Kirk, Reverend Kirk, a moment to introduce herself. And it is Ash Wednesday, for those of you who are not entering the season of Lent. So she will be rolling off the call a little bit early this evening because she actually has to host worship. So thank you, Reverend Kirk, for making time on this holiest of Wednesdays. And please, if you wouldn't mind, just take a couple minutes, introduce yourself to the group, and share your hopes and dreams for the committee, just in case you have to roll off before we get to item 5, discussion regarding future council projects and initiatives.
Absolutely. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to greet everyone at my first meeting and say hello, and I apologize in advance. I said yes, and the date didn't quite click for me, and I go, it's Ash Wednesday, so I'll be running really quickly to do some imposition of ashes for some of our members and members of the community. I am the newly appointed pastor at St. Paul AME Church here in Glencoe, and I'm really excited to be here. This is my 3rd congregation that I have pastored, and I have to tell you, this is the most unique congregation based on placement, proximity, and really the beautiful, rich history of this church and how it truly came to be. If you've never had the opportunity to come and visit us, I invite you. You can worship with us virtually, or we are in person on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. But what you will find is a very close-knit family church. And when I say family, I mean that figuratively and literally. You know, when we look at the history of the church, we've got 7 generations of persons who are members of this church that started with a founder that was pioneering in the community of Glencoe as an African American. And so we richly celebrate that history. And so I'm really excited to be at St. Paul and really position St. Paul to tell their story with clarity and courage, and to invite others to be a part of the conversation of how this congregation came to be. When I thought about sharing my hopes by vocation, I feel called to create a community that allows and creates space for every person to be able to live out their hopes and dreams and desires of all that they would want to be. And I think that all of us joined this council, I'm going to say, because we believed in this mission-minded work. And when I think about mission-minded work, it involves community, it leads individuals and even communities collectively into purpose. But really, in order to do that, we have to be able to remove those barriers of division that often get in the way of us being able to celebrate each person in the community for its uniqueness. And so I'm new to the council and I'm learning some of the work that's happened before me, but there were just some things that I was thinking about. And one would be, this is truly an opportunity for us to educate leaders and stakeholders. And I've already got to see some of that work begin in the February 8th meeting. And then I was thinking about platforms to create awareness and exposure. Safe places and spaces where persons can really speak and be heard. But something that I was really thinking about was the communication of goals. And this is a piece that I'm really eager to learn a little bit more about, because I think that when we have a clear vision of who we are, then we are able to invite others to help us to be able to carry out that vision. And so something that's really outlined, I was asking my congregation, my community, what do they know about the council? And, you know, I've had predecessors that have served previously, but I didn't get a lot of feedback. And so that made me wonder about how the vision had been communicated in such a way the person saw themselves as a part of that vision, that they could help to execute it and give voice to it. And my congregation has only a small percentage of persons that actually live in Glencoe. Yet there are persons that travel from the far south suburbs, persons that travel from Zion and Waukegan and other places to worship in Glencoe every single week. And I want to make sure that they understand the vision in such a way that they are a part of the community, even if they're spending a short amount of time here, but it's a choice to spend time. And so how do they contribute to that vision and help to share the message? So those were some of my hopes and dreams. And I know that I may not get to be on to hear everyone's thoughts, but I'm really eager to hear your thoughts, and that we'll be able to combine our ideas and put something in place that I think will be able to have legs and really take flight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reverend Kirk. I really appreciate it. I know it's a little topsy-turvy putting you at the top of the agenda and then moving around to the next thing, but I just wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to hear what you had to say. So thank you so much. And then with that, we are going to switch gears back to the February 8th town hall. And the main thing here being, I'm just looking at my clock because, you know, I like to keep time. It's 5:43. I would like to keep this to 10 minutes or less. You all had the opportunity to view the survey results. It was in the pre-read. So I think this is a space for us to share feedback that you haven't had an opportunity to share with the committee or with Raphael, Sharon, or myself since that time, or things you might have heard outside of the survey. You know, I was talking to my neighbor and they happened to ring on and they said that. So with that, I'll start our time. We have till 5:44. No town hall feedback.
Sorry, I just wanted to say a quick note. I'm not saying this because I was the one speaking during it, but I did really enjoy it. I really, really did enjoy the personal perspectives and points of view from the two individuals that were personally going through this. The one part I wish that we had more information on, and it was scheduled, but due to a death in the family, may rest in peace, she wasn't there, was that having someone speak more directly to how the impacts or the reflections in Glencoe are. That role would have been there, but again, because of an unfortunate death in the family, the other panelist was not there. I will also share with you guys that one of the families that I invited attended, reached out to me. Her sister is currently with a disability. I apologize, can't remember what it is. She was very thankful. She liked the presentation quite a bit to offer that perspective. I also received an email from the superintendent, Dr. Wayne, and she thanked us. She thought it was a very good presentation. And she also asked for the public recording so that she could perhaps use it in terms of training or showing it to her staff and everyone in regards to the Glencoe School District. So I thought that kind of showed us that that it was a positive presentation all around. And the only other thing, as from learning, is that there was a missed opportunity in the presentation to have a representative from a Glencoe governing body to give a perspective as to what they've been doing to address the topic that we did. Specifically, I think next time if we have whatever discussion, if there's for instance, a topic in which the Glencoe Park District could come in and talk to what programs they're implementing or what they are doing, or if it's someone in the school district to implement how they're helping access, if that's pertinent to the discussion, I think that we as a group should consider that as having a person on that committee or town hall or speaker series, whatever you want to call it.
I'm really glad you said that, Raphael, because I think that there's and I see Sharon nodding, there's a process piece that goes with that. And we're going to speak to that a little bit, as you know, Raphael, we're going to speak to that a little bit later in the meeting, but it's hard to know on the one hand, I think we didn't anticipate that one of the speakers was going to come in with such prescribed ideas around, lakefront improvements. And he was just speaking from his own experience. But in that moment, it would have been great to have someone from the park district there to say, yes, and here's what we've done. Here's what we're trying to do in the future, et cetera. So I think it speaks to, needing to have a little better understanding of what people are going to present. It's just learning. We're just learning on the job here. So whether it be, getting the full document, with the slides beforehand or talking points, et cetera, well in advance of the town hall, so that we have, so that we can be prepared with the right sort of compliments from our village, because that's who we're here to represent. Sharon, do you want to say anything more on that?
No, thank you for noting that, though. We can talk more about timing and logistics. I don't want to take the group's time with that. The only other thing I'll mention is that I can certainly send Dr. Wang the link to the YouTube video of the presentation. We have it on our site.
Anybody else want to share any thoughts?
Yeah, so I think you guys did a great job setting this up. It was really, really an amazing forum. I think most of the feedback was quite positive in all of the forums. And I think that's really, really awesome. Having only been here for less than a year, I mean, that was great. I learned a lot. I thought the speakers were fantastic. Good job, everybody. That was really awesome.
Yeah, and I'll echo that. I went in with high expectations, knowing how much time everyone on the core team had put in preparing for it, and my expectations were exceeded. I thought the speakers were phenomenal, and I think it sort of underscores the value of personal stories at these types of things. I mean, hearing someone talk about these things in the abstract is, helpful, but wow, the personal stories really kind of bring it home. And I thought they were moving, and I thought it was really excellent.
All right, great. Well,
one thing I will say, John, dovetailing off of that, and back to what Hillary and Raphael said about, right when they were talking about the beach and the things we could do, Raphael, you said it might have been a lost opportunity, but you know what? We could look at it that way, or we can say, hey, you know what? Let's table that and bring it back. Let's maybe bring the park district back in some capacity to talk about things like that. I mean, we don't have to just, say, hey, we missed it. We missed it for once, and now we're aware of it. And now let's figure out a way to bring it back. Some other, I don't know if it's a forum or some other way. Maybe we can bring the park district in. But yeah, those personal stories, John, that's what brought it to the surface, right? Talking about the beach and when you show those pictures of the gentleman that was going back in the water for the first time. So I don't think it's a missed opportunity. Maybe that one moment in time it was, but we won't miss it again.
I think that's a really good point, and thank you, Vivek, for making it. And something that I know is really important. I don't see Anise on the call, so I don't think it's sort of unfortunate that she's not here to receive these kudos for all of her hard work together with Raphael and Bob. But this idea that we don't just set something down and then walk away from it, the idea of continued learning, I think it is really important to her and other members of the council. So you're actually speaking to a really important thing. It's like we can come right back. We could bring the park district back and have them speak to the things that we're doing well, and then maybe opportunities for improvement. So and I think that could be true with a number of our sort of governmental partners. There's these funny relationships where you think, well, that's all one village, but actually the park district is separate. And I think that there's probably opportunities with a number of our partners to do that. So thank you very much for that suggestion. Anyone else? We're over 10 minutes. I failed.
we're moving on to the next item on the agenda. I hope you guys got the email that we sent out asking to be ready to discuss regarding the future projects or initiatives that the council has. This came up in a discussion because taking into account the fact that we have new members on the council, we wanted to take an opportunity and for everyone to take about 2 to 3 minutes to perhaps voice what they want or what they want to see come out of our meetings. What are our goals? What are our type of ambitions? Keeping in mind that those are tangible and attainable. And again, it's going to be something that we just want to hear 2 to 3 minutes. And to start off, I'll read aloud Council Member Bob Young's statement. He's unable to attend due to previous engagement, but he did forward us the email, and I wanted to share what he says. From Bob, he says, the main challenge facing the Council for Inclusion and Community is reaching a much wider Glencoe audience. Based on my experience serving this important organization is that despite the hard work of its members and the excellent support of the village, very few residents know of its mission or that it exists. I've been told that the turnover in its membership since its formation is due to frustration not being able to reach a wider audience. The situation is hardly unique to Glencoe. All over the nation, local newspapers have closed and continue to close. People have lost interest. And attempting to reach out via the net, social media, doesn't seem to have reversed this trend. As for my suggestion as to what the council should try, let's personally contact churches, synagogues, schools, including New Trier High School, Family Service of Glencoe, and ask to make presentations to their boards, social action committees, or etc. via Zoom or if possible in person. A big advantage of doing this is that these organizations themselves would be doing the work of putting together an audience. The members of these organizations would be contacted by someone as they know and have a demonstrated interest in. Remember, despite hard work by the council and the village, attendance at our town hall meeting has been very light. Getting more people involved requires meeting with them, explaining our mission, listening to them, getting feedback. It's got to be hands-on. There is no substitute. And that's from, again, Councilmember Bob Young. I'll start it off, and I will say that as far as my goals or what I would like to see come out of this, I do not want to set goals so high in the sky that they're unattainable or it's just a waste of time. I would really like to see the council focus on topics that will introduce different perspectives from people we don't normally hear about. That's why I thought the last village hall meeting that we did was so prevalent, because I don't have the opportunity to speak with people with those type of disabilities and their perspectives. I also would like to see the council perhaps tackle on some areas or subjects that are not necessarily agreeable. And those topics could either be the celebration during the holidays, how we can be more inclusive of that, or having presenters in regards to people that aren't represented thoroughly in this area. But I also want to be able to have this as a safe space where people can express their ideas without the fear of repercussions or the fear of being labeled or banned. That's all I got.
So,
Want to start calling on people, or should we do all
no, so I'll make a comment. I guess in response to Bob's statement on engagement. One different perspective is, obviously if people don't know about it, then it's hard to engage. There has to be an interest, right? I mean, if there's a lack of interest in this topic, then I don't care how much you beat the drum. I mean, people there are things on TV that I will never watch because I have zero interest. And I'm not trying to make this like TV. I mean, so it has to be something people are interested in before they pay attention. And I'll leave it at that because not everyone is interested in this topic, and that's okay. I mean, you can't twist people's arms to say, hey, you have to have an interest, you have to do something, you have to. And I'll just pause there because I'll keep going on and on, but maybe the focus needs to be, a little bit closer to that is, are we presenting and contributing to the community in a way that will draw interest?
My comments, I guess, kind of relate to that, Vivek. One of the things that I've been thinking about to some extent is, who can we have in this speaker series that we had talked about having in the past. And part of what's driving my thinking on that is engagement and getting folks to actually be interested in whoever we ultimately land on. And I think one idea I had, and I don't know if this is a goal or more of an idea, but would be, someone who tells a compelling personal story, perhaps a refugee or someone who was welcome into a community, perhaps not Glencoe, but a community in the area, and can tell sort of a positive story about how important it was to, come into a community that he or she may not have, fit perfectly into when they arrived, or just felt sort of like an outsider, and have a positive message of inclusion and community that's coupled with a very interesting sort of personal story that, may bring people in for no other reason other than they think the speaker might be interesting. And then at the same time, we can use that opportunity to inform them about what we do and why we're here and everything else. So, so that's, I guess, the goal, I guess my overarching goal would be, to increase engagement. And that's one idea I had of a way we might do it.
I think that's great. I mean, the stories in the last forum were fantastic. And I think, to your point, what you're talking about right here is that drives engagement, right? It's not just, hey, you know what, we're this council and this is what our mission is and we want you to pay attention. It's not that. It's, hey, you know what, this is a real story. This is a real person. And that's engaging.
Can I jump in?
Please.
Okay. So I am new to the council, and the town hall in the fall was honestly my first exposure to the council at all. And I couldn't attend the February town hall live, so I watched the recording later, and I agree. I thought all of the presenters were fantastic. I really enjoyed listening to their stories, but I will say at the end, I exited YouTube and I said, okay, but now what? Right. And I think, to me, it's like, I don't envision the council as a speaker series or presenting a series of town halls. To me, it's sort of like the town hall should be the jumping off point. And I don't know how many people attended it live versus if we track how many people watched the recording. But, I walked away thinking, okay, like what could we actually do? Who do we talk to within the village? Who do we talk to at the park district? Is there a community? Is there a group within Glencoe that would want to work with us to kind of, I don't want to call it troubleshooting, but identifying areas for improvement? I'm sure there are, and I just haven't been exposed to that yet. But I think I realize it's hard on Zoom for things to be interactive, and that's how you drive engagement, is to be interactive. But I do just think, like, the town hall forum, the speaker series ideas, that should be sort of the starting point for bigger dialogue and more conversations so that people can get engaged. The other things that I thought about are, I think one thing is just sort of like some sort of community-wide acknowledgement of these different, Black History Month, Pride in June. Like, there could be small things we do. It doesn't have to be an event. It doesn't have to be a town hall. It could be as simple as like putting up flags in the village, or like sending out a little blurb in the village emails. I saw that the library, their historical fact and fiction book group last month focused on slavery because of Black History Month. It could be partnering with the library to do book clubs. It could be doing some sort of film thing with the library. I just think there are a lot of opportunities to work with other institutions within Glencoe, including sort of the public ones, but also the faith-based ones, and to do, combined programming. the last thing is, I feel like we talk a lot about DEI, like in capitals. But I think like when we talk about community and inclusion, that can be much simpler, much broader. You know, it could be a million different things, but I would love to see something geared towards people of all ages, not just adults who want to attend a speaker, you know, something in the evening, but like doing something with kids, working with the school, or, you know, putting something on that's for families. I have a friend here in town who's from Colombia, and she said to me, you know, there are so many immigrants in Glencoe, or family, you know, even putting aside immigrants, people who are temporarily here from other countries. And it would be really nice to like connect with each other, you know, show other people in Glencoe that there are so many different cultures here. I don't know what that looks like, but, you know, in my mind, that's not like a DEI, but it is community building. So that's what I came up with.
Thank you, Emily. That's excellent. I'm trying to look at the squares here and see who, both Vivek and John spoke. And John, you were more intentional about saying, this is what I was thinking I would like, but with Vivek, it was more of a response. Was there anything more you wanted to add? Just freestanding. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but we're putting everyone on the spot.
Is it directed at John and I?
It's really directed at you because John sort of, if I'm listening well, which I think I was, John said, you know, and this kind of leads to what I wanted to say. So I just, in both of your cases, but especially yours, I want to make sure that there's not anything we're missing in addition to the response.
No, I think we've gotten it. And I think Emily also brings up an excellent point about the action, right? We're getting this feedback, we're learning a lot, and what are we going to do? And I think that's something out of the last two forums that we've learned, that's a big question mark, right? What are we going to do? There's a lot of avenues we can take, but I think both of those are valid points. I think the stories are great, and I think, you know, some sort of action. What is it? Those are great topics that we need to delve into and figure out.
Okay, so before we move on to Amy and Denise, I think one of the things that we discussed when we were putting together this meeting was the idea of stop, start, continue. We mentioned that last month. And I think there was sort of this thought, well, we'll give an overview of all the different programs we've been doing. And some of you correctly pointed out, yeah, well, that's going to take all night. And then another one of our members asked us to just think a little bit more broadly and sort of divorce it from the history of what we've been doing and just think about what you would like to see us do. So I'm just throwing this into the mix with everything else. If we want to continue town halls, great. If we want to continue some of the other things that we've been doing, great. There's nothing we have to continue. You know, we're not rooted to anything as of this moment. You know, I think there's some things all of us would like to see continue, but you know, if you, I want to free our minds a little bit from this. You know, we keep going back to the town hall and the speaker series. So part of me thinks, okay, well, that's important. Everyone wants to see that continue. On the other hand, I want to make sure that you're not just saying that because you feel like there are only levers. So that's just a comment.
Yeah, well, I wonder, Hillary, if in our effort to have you know, a town hall every quarter or whatever our practice has been historically, might tamper down the numbers we get at the events we do have. And if we, you know, if we had 2 instead of 4 a year, or 3, even 3 instead of 4, that maybe, you know, maybe we maximize attendance at fewer events, if that might be something we should consider. And then do other things, you know, in addition to that, be it, you know, some of the ideas Emily had or other things, but the actual, you know, sort of speaker focused events, maybe we have too many of them. I don't know.
Like we're stretching ourselves too thin.
Perhaps, and not even just ourselves, you know, the attention spans and interest of community members. If you know, there's so many events, sometimes you know, things can get watered down. Perhaps. Just an idea. You know, I'm not.
No, thank you. That's excellent. Anyone else want to riff off that?
Well, something just came to mind that we discussed before and we never really expanded on. Our council serves as an advisory council to that of the village administration. In the time that I've been here, I've never heard a suggestion or a motion that we vote on an issue or that we decide to bring up a perspective or concern that we think should be addressed to by village administrators. Or there is a concern and there is a worry, and we would like a broader audience with more than the village trustee Gary who's on the board. I heard a member say there's no point of being on a committee just to say I'm on a committee, or I'm not on a council to be on a council. So it for me, that really resonated because it goes to the heart of why am I doing what I'm doing? For instance, if there was, and sir, I only bring this up because you're on the call. If there was an issue with public safety, I would want to be able to then have a recommendation or ask the representative of public safety to be at a meeting to discuss the issue that's been brought up. I want to be able to see that the council has the ability to play our role as an advisory committee and bring something that comes to our attention to that of the village administration versus us just talking about it, having a village hall on it, but then nothing ever happens. Nothing ever is followed up. I think that by following up or by having a voice at the when there's a trustee meeting, like, I'm embarrassed to say this, but I haven't been to one since last summer. So it's like one of those where if there's an issue that is brought up by this council, we want something to be said or done. We reach out to Sharon or the other people and ask for time at that meeting, or ask for a trustee, more than one trustee, to attend our meetings in order to advocate or express those concerns that have been brought to our attention, or something that we feel needs to be addressed.
Raphael, I think that's well said. Thank you. I want to make sure that Amy and Anise are put on the spot appropriately. Who wants to go first? Amy.
Yeah, fine. So lots of good comments, and I'm quiet mostly because I kind of agree with the perspectives that have been brought forward. One that I might speak to a little bit is what Emily brought up. I do think that the one downside of town halls and speakers is that it's a one-off, and we don't do a whole lot between one, say, quarter to the next. And I think we could use a couple of things initiatives that we're doing, that we're driving to make this a better community. Any one of those ideas that Emily threw out there is just a thought provoker I would have been a fan of, and there's probably, some vetting we could do and a few other ideas. But I'd say that is something that I feel is missing a little bit, is that it would be nice to have the impact, and whether we feel it a little bit like Raphael was just saying, through, that if there's an issue, we get behind it and, support it, whether it's families or whatever. But I like that. And the other point I guess I'd make is, I just think we should
hold on. I don't want you to go on to your next point, because I want you to say more about what kind of initiatives. So Emily had suggested, and I think she was literally just making an example of recognizing the different known months and things that are pre-existing. We know in February nationally we celebrate my God, what's wrong with me?
Yeah, LGBT and all that, right? And we have talked about that, right? And I love the kind of welcoming flags that we've talked about putting up, there's a bunch of those things that I think, let's pick one or two that are really impactful and we can have a few of us get behind that. That's just, it's slightly superficial, but it's something kind of visible, doesn't hurt. And I think it's a way of saying, giving voice to that. But I also thought that the refugee idea was brilliant. And, thinking of who else is in this community that maybe just that we don't know is in this community. I always feel from my daughter-in-law, Emily, how many people in need live here that we don't know, that we kind of somehow don't realize the face of Glencoe is just like the face of a lot of other towns. And we just don't see it, especially in the winter, we run in our houses, close the door, nobody. So I'm sure there's a separate conversation, a way to vet through some of the profiles that would be right for us. So I didn't want to kind of use it to say, hey, here's the answer. But I do think speakers are good, but as John said, there's all kinds of other sides to that isn't ideal. So.
Thank you. And then, sorry, you can go on to your other thing, but I just wanted to be really clear because I'm keeping a list.
What was the other point I was going to say? Oh, I think some of it is I'd like to see us have some goals. So let's kind of decide there are 4 things, 6 things, 2 things, whatever it is that we're going to do. Let's work that together all through the year instead of kind of I feel sometimes like we flop around a lot, it's that, this, and that. We would do it if we ran a business or anything else. We wouldn't be at everything. We would narrow it down to the ones that really make the biggest difference for the community. So that's my.
Well, Amy, I can promise you more easily than I can promise anyone else on this call that is going to happen. So just a note on process, because I don't know that Raphael or I articulated this, but as you all are speaking, I'm writing all of this down for those who are not here or who, didn't feel up to the task, they've sent their information in the background. We will put it into some kind of document where things are a little bit more concise. And we're going to ask you guys to rank them and where should we start? And ideally, and we're tracking this way as of this moment, and it's only 6:13. We could start action on whatever people feel like is our top initiative or top 2-3 initiatives in April. So that's very important to both of us. And I think probably to most members of this committee that we begin to see, set goals and work towards them in an organized way. So yes, and yes.
Great.
Anything else?
No.
All right, Anise, you have the floor.
Sorry, I was late. I apologize. It fell out of my head. I have a kid homesick and thankfully Hillary texted me. So thank you, Hillary. And Emily, welcome. Nice to meet you. I'm Anise.
Meet you too.
And can you tell me what, Hillary, I think I know what I'm in the hot seat for, but can you just repeat it so that I'm answering correctly?
Your hopes and dreams for the Glencoe Council on Inclusion and Community, untethered to anything we have done, have discussed, don't be married to, only as I said, sort of the levers we have had at our disposal up until now. Where would you like to see us go from here? And please be as tangible as possible so that we can solicit feedback from the group and get to work.
Okay. Well, I second a lot of what Emily said, and what Raphael said, in terms of, I want there to be tangible change. I want us to be, you too, Amy. I want us to be doing things that make Glencoe more accessible for everyone, but in a tangible way. And I don't want to just talk about it. I want to feel it. I want to have bricks like laying there, and then I want to stack them and make something out of it. And so for me, I agree, I was a part of the town hall and I thought that it went well, but then afterwards I was kind of like, well, so what are we gonna do about it? Like, how are we gonna, like, and people started giving me information and, I was, there's a place in Northbrook that they specialize in working with people with developmental delays that are helping them find employment. And like, are we gonna reach out to them and are we gonna connect them with people in our community to try to, but then if there are only 3 doors that open when you press it, like, can we really get people in a wheelchair to like come in and be interviewed? Just like a whole bunch of things, sort of like, how are these tangible things going to change? I want to come from a positive place, but it's easier, I guess, for me to talk about what I don't want, which is that I don't want to, just sort of put all these things out there and like kind of face paint, but not really have internal change of our village. This is the only thing really, for the most part, outside of my synagogue and things in the school with my children, that I've gotten involved in Glencoe. Like, it's taken me a really long time to participate in something in Glencoe, for a number of reasons. And I decided to come onto this committee because I did hope and believe that there could be tangible change made by like-minded people who want Glencoe to feel different, look different, sound different. So I don't know how, like, none of that is sort of like concrete. I know a lot of that, what I'm saying is more like an intangible kind of thing, but maybe other than Emily, the rest of you have heard me kind of talking, and I think you have a sense of what I would like to see, but I want change, and I want to be spending time doing this with you guys so that we can step back and say, like, we did something, like, and we made it feel different here. Because the way it feels here to me right now does not feel like a community where everybody is welcome. And that brings me a lot of like shame and sadness. So I want a different reputation, like, really, for our village.
Thank you, Anise. Well said. And for Emily's benefit, and really for all of our benefit, I feel as though, I work hard at not being a Pollyanna. I think I have to work hard at it because I sort of lean that way a little bit. But I want to be really clear that just because, like, we have been doing things, with those town halls. I mean, Anise, it's so unfortunate. The reason I texted Anise is because everyone was saying these nice things about the town hall and she wasn't on the call to hear it. So, I think that there's a balance. I don't want to say like we're achieving our objectives, I think, as effectively as we could be. But despite really a lot of moving pieces over the last 12 months or so, a lot of really important things have gotten done, including just the fact that someone like Emily, and I'm saying Emily's name again, is here today because she came to the town hall in September and had an experience and thought, like, well, here's something I can help with, I can get involved with, and that is significant. So just wanting to point out also Anise's the Heart of Glencoe column, which everyone knows is my personal favorite. I think that we have the makings of some things that are in the right direction. And so just because we don't have to be bound by our history doesn't mean that we can't be, or that there isn't some good work that we've started to do and that we can build off of. Just as we said, as regarding the town hall, some of us felt like the last one, it was prescriptive, and then it's kind of like, well, now what? Well, we can go back, we can have a second town hall that answers that town hall. I mean, the sky's really the limit. And it just, in our efforts to improve and to move forward, I want to be really careful that we don't not acknowledge the good work that's already been done, because I do think it's, especially given our constraints, not meeting in person, not really being able to meet with others outside of our group in person, it's been something. So thank you to all of you. And so this will be, I'm not going to say much more because I've been contributing on and off throughout the night. And, I have a platform because I get to put together the list. But what I would say, my hopes and dreams for the committee, in addition to all of the things that you've said, is a little bit different only because of my background. For those of you who don't know, I've spent a lot of years managing volunteers, and a month, maybe last week, I'm not sure, I listened to this NPR piece. It was on point about how people are moving away from public service because the world is making it a really hard place for people to do public service. And I immediately thought of this committee and the work that we're trying to do, and the fact that it's hard. And we are not living in a time that's making it any easier. So for me, maybe because of my position with Raphael, but also because of my background, it's really important to me that we find a way to do this in a way that is respectful of your time, your boundaries, the excellent contributions you have already made as volunteers. If we can just make this a more palatable experience for all of you, I will have been successful. I will have achieved my objective, because there's nothing that has been suggested tonight that isn't a great idea. So if in my role as chair and together with Raphael, we can facilitate that in a way that is just slightly less painful than it has been, we'll have succeeded. So I'm gonna cut myself off. We're at 6:22. Anyone else have anything they want to add in the sphere of hopes and dreams?
If I may, I'm not doing this, Hillary, because I have a large head as being co-chair.
That's why I'm here.
The size of my head is 7 5/8 fitted hat. Just so you guys know, it is a very large dome, but it's not because of being a co-chair. In regards to what we just talked about, I've been making notes as well. And some of the ideas that I jotted down, broaden subjects, area of interest to include different groups of people for future topics that are engaging and interesting. Better follow-up after our meetings, whether those be village hall meetings and or speaker series, and to use those as a starting point to further discuss the effects and impacts, I would say, in regards to our town, but it's also in regards to society in general. I mean, quite honestly, what we talked about at the last town hall is applicable everywhere, regardless. Working with other organizations and institutes in order to perhaps do combined programming to further our mission statement. And those, of course, organizations can be those routed in Glencoe as well as surrounding areas. But I would also encourage organizations that aren't necessarily very prevalent here. None come to mind, but it's just an idea. A more vocal visual role as an advisory council to the group of the village board, whether that be if we have a quorum, a vote, we want to express something, we then take that to the village board and through the right means, Sharon, talk to the board about what we as a council / committee would like to be seen, would like to see, or changes considered or implemented. Again, we are an advisory council, but I've had advisors in the past that are incredibly loud and can be heard to the point where things are things can be done. That's just some of the notes that I took. If I am, and again, I'm not crediting anybody that said or anything because I don't want to offend, but I hope that's a roundabout generalization of what we've talked about. And Vivek, I saw you with your hand up, so I'm calling on you.
Yeah, and I'm just going to keep it real short. I know the one thing that I've heard throughout, or what are we going to do next? What's this whole idea? And I just want to make one more point. It doesn't always have to be academic, right? I mean, and I know it's really hard the last 2 years, but maybe this summer we can actually host something during one. The village has a lot of activities in the summer. Maybe we can actually host something when the community is already getting together. Something that's not formal and academic with a presenter, but just, hey, we're here. And I don't know where that would be, but that was the one thing I want to say. And I also want to say, Anise, you missed it at the beginning. we were all singing your praises and Raphael's and Bob's about the last forum. I just wanted to say that while you're here. Awesome job.
Thank you. Well, and I didn't mean to be a boo leader. Sorry, it's been a long day, but I'm really excited. Like I wasn't at the last meeting, so I didn't get to meet anyone new. And Emily, I guess you're representing all the new people right now. I saw the Reverend was on for a minute and then had to go, but I'm really excited, for this next, and Hillary and Raphael, I do, you've been extremely accessible, and I love that you've asked for all this stuff ahead of time so that we can kind of have it at the forefront to present, and then also just be on the same page. And I guess what I would add to the wish list, and I may have mentioned this to Raphael or Hillary, but maybe I didn't, is that like I would like us to know each other as a committee. I know it's been really hard. Like Emily, even though you're new, there are some of us that haven't even like been in the same room together because of COVID and things like that. So it's important to me that we all know each other, like, formally and informally, and just kind of, understand from one another, like why we're doing what we're doing and kind of what our backgrounds are. I think that that's really important to working together as a team. And so I'm happy when people are comfortable. I'm happy to host something at my home, and I'm a decent baker and I can buy wine, and, I can do that. I'd like to.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Any other comments specifically about the future council projects and initiatives, or should we move on to other business? Everyone feel sufficiently heard?
Mhm.
Awesome. Okay, do we have any other business?
One thing I'll just mention, I put this in the email, but it's possible that this may be our last Zoom meeting. So Anise, that was a perfect segue.
Mhm.
Our authority to conduct virtual meetings is granted by the state. That authority is set to expire unless it is otherwise renewed over this weekend. So our April meeting may be in person. Stay tuned. I'll send you an update once I have more information to share.
Thank you, Sharon. That's really important for those of us like me who've gotten very comfortable in my own space, my own house. I'm going to have to come out. I do want to meet you. I do want to have Anise's treats. I don't think we're allowed to have wine at a public meeting, but I mean, no one has.
It would be social. It would be social. It would not be, it would not be like that.
Cookies, yes.
But Sharon, one of the things that we talked about in our meeting before with, Raphael, all of us, but not the committee, was the idea of these like levers. Is that something, do you have, 1 to 5 minutes worth of input, and you may not wish to do it now, in terms of what's available to us as a committee? We have a budget. There are standing events throughout the year in Glencoe that might be easier for us to piggyback off of, rather than trying to like plan our own events from scratch. We could just partner with folks. What are those sorts of things that we have available to us?
Sure, I can give you a quick summary, and if you want to do a deeper dive into any of these next time, happy to do that as well. There was $12,000 budgeted this year for the council's work and activities. A subcommittee had put together a sketch of how you perhaps would like to use that. That could certainly be revisited. That is not carved in stone. The full 12,000 was budgeted.
Okay.
That is, again, something we can talk through more in the context of specific programs and events. I wouldn't suggest doing that this evening, though.
No.
Other resources that we have available, all of the village's communication tools and communication suites. I do want to introduce the group at a future meeting to our new communications manager, who just started with the village on Monday. She came back for her 3rd day today, so we were really excited. She's really wonderful and brings a lot of energy, graphic design skills, video skills. So lots of cool marketing capability that we have in-house. I wholeheartedly agree with the idea of dovetailing onto other village events because it can capitalize on the attendance that's already there, share in some of the marketing and promotions. And that's something that we have a little bit of an example from with the Sustainability Task Force, in that they've tried to bring a sustainability element to certain events, whether it's, say, using like compostable products for something, for example. So there may be opportunities for this group to do things in a similar fashion. I will say that as we get into planning events, it is very important that we communicate about the level of staff support that's needed and the time frame, and have some consolidated conversations on that, just to be sure that we've got sufficient time to program into our schedules, and that we're planning ahead and balancing the work that staff does to support this group along with the other work that we do. So maybe bringing back that status report template that I put together and shared with the group last year could be helpful as we're starting to plan more specific events. I could go into more detail, but that may be more appropriate as the group starts to coalesce around some specific ideas, because it would be more relevant to talk about specific examples and specific things you'd like to do.
Thank you, Sharon. That's super helpful. And yes, I think, as we begin to move further down the road with some of these initiatives, obviously you'll be with us every step of the way. But I think just on a sort of status report template note, I think there were a number of ideas along those lines floated by different members of the committee, including a consent agenda and things like that. And so, yes, we are going to try and continue to become more efficient in how we meet and how we use one another's time. So more to come on that once we know what it is we want to do. Any other business? Things not on the agenda?
Just a quick, I'm taking an opportunity to promote, because we're just talking about this. The Glencoe Junior High Project's having a pie fundraiser. It's through, the net proceeds benefit the Glencoe Junior High Project. It's for Pie Day. Ordering deadline is March 4th. It's $22 for a Elegant Farms pie. And I'm going to order one even though I'm diabetic, but I think it's for a great cause. And just wanted to give it out there because I think it's something that as to try to facilitate better communications and workings with other organizations. Just wanted to say something in case you guys wanted to order a pie. You can go to their website, Glencoe Junior High Project, and order it from there. With that being said, and there's no other business, may I please have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Don't we have to listen to if there's any other comments from the?
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Were there any public comments submitted by email during the meeting, Sharon? And then we should probably confirm the next meeting date and time, the first Wednesday, month of April, again at 5:30, and it's a strong possibility that might be in person.
Yes, so that would be April 6th.
Thank you, Amy. Sorry about that.
No.
So I guess with that being said, may I please have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
May I please have a roll call vote?
Okay, Member Bjork.
Aye.
I'm sorry, I'm going in alphabetical here. Co-Chair Guzman,
Yes.
Member Molly,
Yes.
Member Moses.
Here.
Member Giselle? Oh, Amy froze. Oh, no, you didn't freeze.
Yeah.
Okay, Member Robbins. Member Scott, or Co-Chair Scott, excuse me.
Yes.
Okay, then we are adjourned. All right, thank you all. Have a lovely evening.
Stay well.
Aye.
Bye-bye.
Aye.